If you're confused about how to understand and figure out what percent SH you're pulling out of your XJet, or how to actually do the math for yourself whenever you need to get a specific percentage or a specific strength mixture, and I'm going to break down step by step in this video how you can do the math on the fly when you're out in the field for yourself pretty quickly. Let's get straight into it. So first, some basics. If you're new, I'll touch over this in just 10 seconds, so bear with me. How does an XJet work? So the XJet sucks in chemical mixture through the plastic chemical tube, and the chemical then mixes into the water. So that long plastic tube, when you squeeze the trigger on your washer, it's going to suck it up. It's going to mix with the water coming out the XJet, right? And your XJet should have came with some orifices that look like these, right? These colored tips, or they're called orifices or proportioners. And I recommend you don't use these. You just throw them away because they're junk to me. Because they're going to end up, what happened to me was they ended up rotting and corroding, and they end up getting stuck inside the XJet, and it's a pain in the ass to get it out whenever you need to switch the strength. So what I recommend is you just leave it open, and then you play with the strength by diluting your bleach or SH mixture yourself. And again, the way these orifices work is some of them, the holes right here, look where my cursor is, some of these holes are bigger, some of these holes are smaller, right? So the bigger holes allow more bleach to come through. The smaller holes allow less bleach or SH or less of your mixture to come through, right? So you can play with it. See, gray diameter is 0.128. This one's 0.01, right? So you can play with the strength by just changing how much mixture you allow in through the XJet. Sounds simple enough, right? So again, I recommend you throw these out. You just leave it open, and then you can personally dilute the ratio yourself by just diluting down the SH coming out of your bucket or chemical tank. So now to the main part of the video. How do we figure out how to actually, how much we should dilute our SH down in our bucket or our chemical tank to understand how to do it? Well, I drew out all these graphics, and I'm going to go through everything right now. So your XJet should have came with a little card that looks like this, right? Now, what does this card do? First, you're going to want to look, how do you use this card? You're going to look to where it says GPMs up top. You're going to find whatever GPM your machine has. Let's say, for example, you're using a 4 GPM, right? So you have a 4 GPM. Okay, you're going to be looking at this column. Now, all you want to do is you want to take the percent of your mixture inside your chemical tank or bucket and then divide it by this number on the left. So if let's say I have straight, I got a 5-gallon bucket and I have 5 gallons. I dumped in 5 gallons of 10% pool chlorine in there, 12.5% SH in there, right? Whatever. What does that mean? So when I squeeze the trigger on my XJet, I'm going to get whatever percent my mix is, so 10%, let's say, divided by this number on the left. So I'm on open, obviously, right? Open. Because like I said, I don't recommend you use these. I just recommend you use it on open, and then you dilute your bucket down. Like I'll explain in a second. So let's say we have 10% SH, right? We have 10%. We have a 4 GPM with 10% SH. So we've got the XJet tube hooked up straight into a bottle of 10% pool chlorine. We're going to take that and we're going to divide that 10 by 1.6, and that gives us 6.25%. Boom. That's all we have to do. So let's say, I don't know, you're washing a roof or whatever, you need like 6.25% exactly pool chlorine, which is pretty hot. I don't go that hot, but let's just say. Hot, by the way, means really strong. The hotter a mixture is, the stronger it is. So that's a pretty hot or strong mixture. So what does that mean? That means if I'm washing something like vinyl, I want to dilute that down. Well, how do I dilute it down then? How do I get exactly like 1%? Well, the math is simple. Right? Or if I'm doing stucco or brick, I want a 3% mixture. If I'm post-treating on concrete, I want maybe like a 4 or 5% mixture, or a roof 4 or 5% mixture. I recommend you get a roof wash pump though if you're going to start washing roofs, but you can wash it with an XJet. I did when I first started. So how do you figure out how much to make your bucket mixture? So let's say you have a 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot, right? And you put inside it 4 gallons of water and 1 gallon of SH, of 10% SH. Well, what you got to understand is that, what does that mean? 1 gallon of 10% SH. So if you buy a bottle of pool chlorine from Walmart and on the back it says 10% sodium hypochlorite, in that entire gallon jug, 10% SH, it'll say on the back, active ingredient, 10% sodium hypochlorite. And 90% of that bottle would just be water. So in that gallon jug, 90% of it is water and 10% is actually sodium hypochlorite. So what does that mean? So we have 0.9 gallons of water in this 1 gallon of pool chlorine, and we have 0.1 gallons of SH. So let's say we have a 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot, and we put in 4 gallons of water from the hose, and then we dump in a gallon of pool chlorine, a bottle of pool chlorine, 10% SH. What does that mean? We really have 4.4 plus 0.9, the 4 from 4 gallons of water, and 0.9 gallons of water coming from the pool chlorine. Because remember, 90% of that is water, 10% is SH. On the back, it'll say active ingredient, 10% SH. The rest is just water to fill the bottle. So when we throw it in a 5-gallon bucket, that's 4.9 gallons of water with 0.1 gallons of SH. So in this, again, 5-gallon bucket, we're going to have 4.9 gallons of water, and only 1.1 gallons are going to be of SH. So how do we figure out what percent this bucket is now, right? Because it's no longer 10% because we diluted the whole thing down because we put in 4 gallons of water. So this bucket is now, all we have to do is we take the total amount of solution, total amount of liquid in the bucket. So let's say we filled it up to the top, exactly 5 gallons. Well, we have 5 gallons of total solution, and again, only 0.1 of that is SH, right? 0.1 gallons of SH. So 0.1 divided by 5 is 2%. So this bucket is a 2% mixture. So what our XJet is sucking up is 2%, but remember we have a proportioner, right? Only a certain amount of that gets from that tube, gets through the hole at once because the hole is small. So all we do is we take this 1.6, so we take our percent SH and we divide it by 1.6. So 2 divided by 1.6 was 1.25%, which is pretty much perfect to wash vinyl siding. You don't want to go more than like 1.25, 1.5% for vinyl. You can go a little bit hotter if it's, really thick and caked on there pretty bad, extremely dirty. But 1 to 1.25% should do the trick almost every time for vinyl. Now let's say you're doing something like stucco or brick, right? You need 3%. Well, all you got to do is just work backwards, right? So you're going to pull out your calculator. Here, I'll do it with you here. Okay. No, calculator. All right, calculator. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the percent SH we want. So here's the formula. Okay, let's say we want 3% SH. So because we're washing stucco or something, we want 3%, whatever we're doing, right? Maybe we're doing a post-treat on concrete, we only want to use 3%. So we take 3%. I'm going to draw it out here for you guys. Right, we're going to use 3%. Right, 3%. And then we're going to, again, ignore that. Right, so let's say we want 3%, a mixture. We want a 3% mixture coming through. We want to pull a 3% mixture out of our pressure washer with our XJet. Well, then all we got to do is take the number we want. So we want a 3% mixture. And we're going to multiply it times 1.6 or whatever that number is for you. So look at this card. You have a 4 GPM. When you leave your XJet open, your ratio is going to be 1.6 to 1. If you have an 8 GPM, it's going to be 3 to 1, right? Or if you have a 6 GPM, you got a 2 GPM, 3 GPM, whatever. I personally don't recommend you buy a machine less than 4 GPM if you're starting the business, just a heads up. So I'm going to come back down here. We're going to take 3% and we're going to multiply it by 1.6, whatever your proportional ratio is. That's going to give you what? At the top of my head, that's like 1.8, so that's going to be 4.8. Because 3 plus 1.8, right? So 4.8. So what does that mean? Well, we want this bucket to be 4.8% SH. Well, that's pretty simple, right? 4.8%, we can round up to 5%, right? Because it doesn't really matter too much. So 4.8% is pretty much the same as 5%. So how do we get, so SH out of the bottle, if it's pool chlorine from Walmart or whatever, is 10%, right? So all we got to do is just take it in half. So we have a gallon of water and we have a gallon of 10% chlorine, dump them in a bucket. That's now 5% because we had 10% and we cut it in half by adding a gallon of water. We had another gallon, it goes down to a third, right? And keep going, etc. So yeah, that's it. I wrote it out again for you guys over here. Figure out what percent SH your mixture is in your bucket. That's huge, right? In your bucket, I'll put buck. And you're going to divide that. Divide by 1.6 or whatever your ratio is, right? 4 GPM, 1.6. Again, don't use 1.6 if you don't have a 4 GPM. You want to look at this card. You can pause it and read it if you lost your card. And then, use this is. Which is the number. I don't recommend you use these to do your proportioning because they will end up getting stuck and clogged in your XJet and you'll have a hard time getting it out. So I recommend you dilute your mixture down by hand. So that's all.